they're not doing that, if they're not doing that, then then you need to have a conversation with them and say, hey, what's going on? I can't keep getting the same feedback. That's, I need to have, we need to work on some things. There's some things that I want to improve on. How can I do that? I think from having a peer accountability, maybe someone from the same industry, but someone outside of the industry, but still holds the same type of role that you do, can offer some great insight and input into what you may need to improve on, or you could encourage them on improving.
So I think the conversation we had, even at the beginning of the year, was that if it's somebody in your company, there's too many other undercurrents going on. There's political jockeying, there's taking credit for things, right? That's within the company, as opposed to, I remember one of the things Paul pointed out was the willingness to be vulnerable. Hey, I meant to do this and I didn't do it. You want to tell that to your boss? And maybe you're in a partnership with somebody in your business, but to say that even a coworker, I think, creates, Jared, a little bit of a challenge, because at some point the coworker's job and your job may bump into each other, or you need extra credibility for something that went wrong, and you don't need this other person at your company ready to spill the beans. I think that's why we were talking before.
Yeah.
I think the question of in your industry versus not is really valid. But then again, isn't most of the accountability not necessarily related to the company, but it's your planning? Did you do it? Did you get distracted? And if things are not going well, are you responding to the lack of performance by either bailing out of it or adjusting it or fixing it, that kind of stuff? I guess, Uli, you have an interesting scenario, and I've done this before as well, is having a business coach. Does your business coach know your business really, really well, or?
Yeah, we've worked together for a long time now. So he does know my business, but I was just thinking about this whole relationship and when does it work, this accountability partnership. And I feel like what I'm missing, and I'm pointing the finger at myself, is being more structured, as in, I kind of know my quarterly goals. I know what I want to achieve. And then, so having a plan, sharing the plan, and going over this, the steps that you've done to accomplish those goals, I could definitely be better at.
Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, I was going to comment, Ms. Lee. So I was a member of an accountability group that it was a paid group. They were people in my industry, but they were geographically dispersed. They weren't in my market. They were in cities across the U.S. And some of their organizations, businesses, were smaller than mine, and some were larger, a lot larger than mine at the time. And we would break into groups, and we would, be able to kind of talk through these issues and have that accountability piece where we would set goals. And I noticed that when you publicly state your goals, that you're more, for me, I was more apt to follow through, because, the group, I told the group I was going to do it. So I'm like, well, crap, I got to do it. So yeah.
There's power in that. There's power in that.
Yep.
Well, even if you tell somebody that you're going to do something, then it doesn't even have to be a group. It can just be an individual. I will have this done by Friday. Well, damn, I better have that done by Friday. So,
yep.
So here's a couple of the notes we had from prior weeks was just that. So I think, Lee, you're onto something about, you're saying it publicly, or Uli, you're saying even as long as you're saying it to somebody, you've given it thought and you put it out there. So I guess the question now becomes, do you have somebody to do that with? And Uli, I'll compare my conversations. I worked with Jeff Lovejoy for a year, and there were things he would throw at me like, well, didn't you say this? And what about this? And then you said you're gonna do that. And I think that's I think the vulnerability was there, that he helped me break through certain questions or things I was stuck at, and that just needs to keep going, right? So are you Uli talking with your coach about those problems, or is the coach coming to you and asking most of the questions?
I think it always starts with, just doing an assessment of where are we now? So what are the key performance indicators, and where did we say we want to be, and why is there discrepancy? So I think those questions always come up, and they tend to be the same questions, same issues.
So maybe maybe we can twist our conversation a little bit. If you look on here, Hank had an idea, Lee had an idea, Sabine said she couldn't make it today. Jared and I had ideas of what we were going to do. And then it's exactly what Uli said. It's like, so how'd you do? What are you going to do about it? Kind of stuff. So Hank or Lee, any thoughts on what you were going to do? And is it still something you want to do and just need to find time?
So for me, that it's a good idea. It's just not a high priority. And it's kind of one of those things that depending on how busy I am that week, doing business that's going to pay me versus doing the pre-work for business that's going to pay me. That's I think part of my frustration with the video thing is, I know that if we're sharing information, video is a great way to go. I see so much crappy video out there. I'm like, okay, if you're going to do a video, it's got to look really professional and well done. And if I'm going to do and maybe it's an excuse, or I'm using it as an obstacle to actually get something done. I'm not going to do the iPhone thing up and take a video. I mean, it's just so many of those, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? So anyway, yeah, I still think it's a good idea, and it's still sort of on my list of how do I socialize myself more effectively.
But your point is, it's not a priority for this week or next week.
Right.
Okay.
But
and then
speaking to video or bad video, we actually started using Loom, Hank, and it's such a nice little piece of software. And we have submitted several proposals with an video introduction, and people watch it and they say, thank you for the video. It's like, so just as an encouragement for you to.
Yeah. No, what's it called? You said
Loom, Loom.
Loom. Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I think to Hank's point, I'm in a spot where I'm going so fast and doing so many things all day long, to your point, Hank, of working on business that's making me money, things like that, that I know it's in my best interest to step back. And for instance, there's a program that I need to demo that will help me rate 20 different insurance companies at one time, rather than doing them one at a time. But it's like a half of a day that I just don't have to commit to it. I know it's going to be better, but it's like hard to get yourself to that point. So, I mean, kind of to your point, Hank, it's like I'm working on so many things. I got to find the time to commit to fixing one of these things to make my life easier. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, I can add in.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
I was going to say same thing. How do you fix the bus with it going down the road? You know, there's a lot of stuff, you know, on the plate every day. And like today, I made another part-time hire, and I was glad that I had some documentation for training and onboarding, but definitely quickly found out that I need to add a lot more to it. And it's just making that time. It's just, you got to, you know, how do you carve it out and just, you got to do it. It's going to help you. But you're right with, everything else that happens on the daily. How do you wedge it in?
But it's deadlines, right? So we get a lot of stuff done in the year because we know the ISO audit is coming up. If I didn't have that ISO audit, I wouldn't do a lot of this stuff. So how do we get better in, right? It's accountability. Same thing.
Right.
If I don't do it, I'm not going to get the certificate. So
you've and it's interesting, Uli, that between yours and Hank's point of view, where Hank said, I'd like to, but I got other things going on. And you said that you realized that you got other things going on, but that ISO certificate is pretty much a deal breaker in your business. So part of this is prioritizing. And one of the things that Jeff helped me with was to say, put an hour or an hour and a half aside for whatever you think your biggest nut is for the day. And you can still have 5, 6, 7 hours of fire drills, and here comes the email and these other things. However, every day, put aside whatever it is, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and you're working on that big nut. Okay, so today I'm going to make 1 hour, I'm going to learn how to use Loom, and tomorrow I'm going to figure out what to do with it or whatever. And that way you're chipping away at the big things while balancing enough time. And I will say that on the times that I did what Jeff suggested, I felt really good at the end of the day. I could see that progress, or I finished the project. When I do my email newsletters, they take me a half a day, and if I can chunk that up into a couple of 1 hour blocks, when I get it out, the feedback I get from it is really satisfying, and it works. So where I'm going with this is, it sounds like we need to be helping ourselves allocate time and priorities. Is it bigger than that? Or is it just that email is so distracting and you feel like, oh, I answered these emails, so I must be doing the right thing?
Well, that's a good question. Is it bigger than that, Hal? I would propose that we have to think about the human element as well. What about ourselves? So why are we procrastinating? Is it because we don't have time, or we have too much other stuff going on? Or are we dealing with something just as a human being, as a person? Do we not feel capable enough of doing this task? Do we question ourselves? Or, I know I struggle with this where, I'm thinking, okay, I have this task, I've got the time, I have the knowledge, but what are these lies that I'm telling myself? And do I talk myself out of it?
Well, and isn't that always an issue with sales? I mean, that's
absolutely 100%. 100%.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a decent point. Like the things I know myself, if I've got a call that I have to make that's negative and I don't want to do it, I find other ways not to do it. And it may not just be that call, but if it's something you're not looking forward to, you push that down the list somehow.
Sure.
But I do know people that say they take those things and do them first.
Right.
I'd like to be one of those people.
Eat a frog.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat a frog?
Eat the frog.
I get the idea.
Yeah.
Just get it out of the way.
Just get it out of the way.
All right. So since we like these conversations, one, because they're entertaining, and then there's some real nuggets in here, what action do we want to take between now and the next 2 weeks? Do we want to partner up and commit to each other? Commit instead of to the group, which is what you see here, and clearly committing to the group wasn't overly impactful. In fact, I think you may have heard the phrase, when everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible. If you make a team of people responsible for doing something, everybody goes, oh, it's, the other person.
Yeah.
So do we want to partner up and be responsible to somebody who's not in our company to be able to say, here's what I'm going to do in the next week or 2 weeks. And then we'll report back, and you can report back one-on-one. Maybe you have a side conversation about what's holding you back, because Adam's got some interesting insights. Anybody interested in doing that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So Adam said
Now,
yes, and Uli shook her head.
I have sort of a side proposal here, and I'm just thinking out loud. What if we each took 2 to 5 minutes or whatever, we thought about it beforehand, but presented what our challenge is and what we need to get better at, and then take feedback from the group or something like that. I don't know, just like I said, thinking out loud.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? I think there's 2 ways to do that, right? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like that idea. What are the current challenges in what you're dealing with or in your business organization? And with those, kind of get the feedback from the group, and then maybe take the next step and look for, either that pair or, to pair up, or
Yeah, maybe there are people with similar challenges. And I think today has worked well because we've all kind of told our story a little bit. But like if I had 30 minutes next week to think about it, to present for 2 minutes, I might, be a little more clear on what I need to do.
And then partner up from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what we have down here under next steps says you get 2 minutes to explain your challenge, give a couple of minutes of feedback to resolve it, and then pair up with somebody to do it. So so we're not going to pair up this week. Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, I think we all came to the conclusion that having somebody in your company, like Jared was sharing, has too much luggage that doesn't really become the solution that Uli has found. I found the same thing with Jeff. And let's do this. You're welcome to bring a friend or a guest to the call next week. In 2 weeks. We'll figure out how to partner up during the call. And if you want to bring somebody else because you think they would be good to either partner for you or partner for somebody else, then we can see to drive that. Because I'm really convinced that, when Uli says if she doesn't get her ISO certificate, oh my goodness, she's figured out how to be accountable to herself in that. And I know, Anthony, you and I have done this a couple of times where it's like, okay, when are we going to get back together to talk about this prospect or whatever? It gets done. All right, in wrapping up, Jared, anything else you want to bring up?
No, I think this was good. Another stat for you.
55% of the under 35 send memes every week. Yeah. So, all right, everybody. Well, this was a good conversation. I think that's what we're trying to, we